So basically, what they would do would be an auto crop and just show the landscape. You would lose quality and you would lose pixels, but it would say, yeah, what you're trying to do, you can't do. I mean, but then people are going to say, oh, you're removing people's choice and freedom. Let's do a class action suit against them and blah, blah, blah. But, oh.
I think for dramatic content is where the biggest challenge is, simply because generally when we're creating drama, we're mirroring the human experience. And the human experience is landscape. That's the way we see it. It's not portrait.
Memories does face recognition, and you can do portrait and do landscape, and you see it reframes, does the pen scan based on the face.
Yeah.
So based on what it would be the main thing on the frame,
Yeah.
right?
Is there a preference to move all vertical video into the trash? is there metadata that'll allow for that?
We finally disagree. Yeah.
Let's talk about vertical video, because it's one thing that's the topic of discussion at the moment, I feel, because Instagram, especially, I know we didn't cover this in the last couple of podcasts, but Instagram have made a bit of an interesting new platform for content creation and creative. It kind of ties into what you guys discussed last week about content creation, but on a different platform, because it involves vertical video. And I know we've got some strong views on vertical video. So where do we start in this chaos that it is?
Well, I think we should start off by quickly defining what portrait and landscape video is for our viewers, particularly those who are not in the field directly of video production. So I think we should just cut to this really quick, this quick 1 to 2 minute primer on aspect ratios, and then we'll jump back in. This is high definition video, referred to as 1080p because it is 1080 pixels high and 1920 pixels wide. And this is 4K, technically ultra high definition because it is 2160 pixels high and 3840 pixels wide. You can fit 4 HD videos inside a 4K frame. This is what landscape video looks like on your phone when you hold it horizontally. You can see the entire HD or 4K image fills the screen. This is what landscape video looks like on your phone when you hold it vertically. The screen is filled with black bars on the top and bottom to compensate for the fact that the content doesn't fill the screen. This is what vertical video looks like. It only shows you 1/3 of what an HD or 4K image has to offer. If you shoot HD or 4K video and put it inside a vertical frame, you can reframe the video in post. Or you can shoot with vertical video in mind, which we'll be getting into shortly.
Yeah, well, vertical video. I have opinions about it. All I have is opinions about it, right? Because vertical videos pretty much they only really exist because people are lazy to turn their phones, and that there is no way to argue against that. I mean, you can argue that you can put a television on the vertical on a shopping mall and use that for advertisement, right?
Sure.
To put like motion advertisement, and that is vertical video. But for the consumer in general to watch something that's filmed vertical and is being delivered in vertical or in portrait, it only really exists because people are lazy. They are. It has been noticed that people are opening those landscape videos and they are not turning their phones, and then they started preferring the videos on square format, and then of course the vertical ones started to take off quite a lot. Now, the reasoning behind having those vertical videos the way we have today, I don't like it. It's just because people are lazy, but we have to deal with it, and we have to be creative and learn how to take advantage of it. So, I mean, my opinion is, do I want to do it? I don't. I have to, and I'll probably be doing for my own content. I probably will go there on Instagram TV and do the vertical thing, and if clients ask me, of course I will do it. But there's a lot of things that go into pre-production if you want to do that. And I think we're going to talk a lot about these right now. But
Yeah.
basically, my opinion is I'm neutral right now. At this point I don't care anymore.
I am not neutral at all. I
Is
am not a
it just to go? Sorry, just got to interrupt. But like to go on what Philippe said, like, is it laziness or is it convenience to not flip your phone?
both.
Both.
What's the difference?
It's true, but like, whenever I watch videos back, I do like not having to turn my phone because I don't like personally with my phone reorientates like the mail app or messages if I'm turning my phone. I like to keep it vertical. And I've only recently discovered that this is kind of maybe more my kind of thing, but the vertical orientation is something I actually lock into my phone. There's an option to disable horizontal rotation. So, is it more convenience to just keep my phone like that, or is it lazy? Is that laziness to go? Oh, okay, I can always turn it back if it happens, but
I think we should take a step back because we think it's just because people have phones that are convenient to hold this way, and that's why people are shooting in portrait orientation. I think the problem isn't that, for example, Apple came out with a video camera that allowed you to shoot this way. It's just the fact that people have video cameras with them all the time. So what we have is amateurs or untrained video people who suddenly now have access to video cameras wherever they are with no formal training, despite everything they've ever watched being in a landscape or prior to that a square aspect ratio. So first of all, we've got people untrained carrying cameras who don't care about the quality or aren't making the connection between everything they've ever watched before on the movie screen or on a television. Then they're not rotating it this way. And another thing I realized is when you're holding it this way, there's no stabilization. If you orientate it when you're shooting and you have two hands out, he's automatically going to have a more stable shot, which again, as a video person, is something you are concerned with. So all those things point to just people who have no idea what they're doing shooting video on a device that was designed to get messages originally, you know?
Well, I think there is another thing that also drove quite a bit of the vertical video, which was FaceTime. So FaceTime, you're naturally holding your phone like this, and then you get a call, and you see the person on the vertical, and you're holding like that. I don't think there's a lot of people that are going to have a FaceTime call on the horizontal, even because the angle in which the camera is looking at, if you put it on the horizontal, you have to put the phone a little bit off to the side for you to be centered on the video, for example.
Sure.
So I think the video conferencing might have influenced a little bit. And like you said, there is a lot of untrained people with cameras now, which is a good thing. Video becomes more normal and people have expectations about video. They make the videos themselves, then they see that it's not that quality they wanted, and they come to the professionals to make a proper video.
Except now these amateurs or untrained video people are the ones dictating to professionals, and that's backwards. That's the trick. Now, as an artist, as a content creator, I am completely opposed to vertical video for the most part. But statistically speaking, if you look at how well a landscape video does online versus a portrait video, it can be like as much as 5-1, 5 times as many hits. If you are doing just because people aren't turning their phones. And apparently if they have to turn their phone, they just sooner click off the link and watch something else. So as a content creator, it'd be foolish for us to ignore that. That's something we have to keep in mind, and we have to be able to deliver a portrait as well. And that's the caveat for me is if somebody's paying me to shoot a video that they want on YouTube, I'm going to shoot landscape. If they also want a video in portrait, are they going to then pay me to produce 2 completely separate videos? Or are they going to pay me to simply take that one and crop in to only show the most important part of the frame? There's a whole can of worms to consider there.
Which is the part that is important about pre-production and knowing what you want in advance. For example, if today I actually have to proactively ask a client, do you want this to go now on Instagram TV, for example? Because if they say yes, and I have to explain to them, I'm not going to, personally, I'm not going to film on portrait, I'm going to film landscape, but I'm going to frame in a way that in portrait, I will have the information that I need in order to convey the story that I'm trying to convey. which also means probably framing wider than you normally would, and things like that. I think it's not really good for everything. For example, for what we are doing right now, a podcast, actually it could be a good idea to be on vertical. Because we are really not showing anything else other than ourselves.
And
right?
I don't think so. I think we are the subject, but the whole background and setting and how we frame that is adding visual interest.
Sure.
And we didn't set this up in 2 minutes. Like, I spent a lot of time lighting my background, and so do you, just so that it would be a more beautiful image. And honestly, to show, I'm leaving blank space over here because there are going to be graphics in the lower corner. And if it was just me filling the frame, the graphics are going across my chest or my face, or if I was to shoot this with portrait in mind, I would frame myself up higher to leave space for graphics on the bottom.
Yeah.
There are lots of the same considerations, but it's a completely different animal.
No, I agree with that. Like, if it's to deliver in portrait, you're gonna shoot differently. You're gonna shoot, like, for example, wider to leave space and stuff like that. But what I'm saying is that story-wise, my background is not adding to the story, for example. So if I would get this video and simply crop, I would still be able to tell the story properly, unless I would be referencing something that's on the table. Then I would lose right there.
I don't know if I agree completely with that. I mean, I understand
That's
in
good.
In a podcast,
we finally disagree.
what we are talking about is the most important thing going on in anyone's frame at the time.
Could be just audio, like it is on.
We
Apple
are setting mood and tone and feeling, which is all part of the picture. I mean, otherwise movies would just make, like, say, the actress look amazing, and the background would just be like, whatever.
But then we just moved from this medium, this type of information, to movies, and that's the place where I think portrait would not fit.
Oh no, definitely not.
I don't think you would watch the next Star Wars in portrait.
Oh, who are you kidding?
Imagine the amount of stuff. Yeah, imagine the amount of stuff that you like. How someone's gonna say, yeah, you just need to be creative. You frame differently, and you're able to tell. The next Star Wars can be in portrait. I'm pretty sure that there are people that will say that. I'm not against those people, and I can agree that creativity will drive a lot of this medium forward.
But this is backwards.
I just don't think. Yeah, but I don't think is necessarily the right way.
Aren't you then limiting what you can capture in that respect? Like, if you do say, it's going to be vertical, this next film, you're limiting your frame. You're limiting yourself to what creative options you have.
Well, devil's advocate.
Respect. Yeah, you know what I mean. So
you're not necessarily. You might have the same number of pixels. It's just rotated this way. But you're limited.
Yeah.
You're limited in the sense that if you wanted to show one person, they could fill the frame pretty well, and maybe you just have more floor or more sky in the frame because you have the space there. But if you have 3 people standing next to each other or a group, they instantly take up so much less space of the screen that you're gonna have so much more background above them.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a good example here to talk about portrait and landscape. First of all, there are our eyes, right? And you know that we see like these 150. I don't know exactly what's the number, but we have quite a wide field of view on the horizontal, not so much on the vertical. But one good example is going to a doorway. The doorway is your vertical frame.
Yes.
When you look through it, you see a certain amount of information, but you're losing all of those things that are on the sides of the doorway that we all see constantly every single day. The only way that you're gonna see just the doorway is either if you're very close to it, actually if you're in it, underneath it, or if you just cover your eyes, like if you would be a horse, and then you just cover and just
Tunnel
see
vision.
the door. And I think that's a little bit unnatural.
It's very unnatural. In fact, we as a species
Well, we're
value
predators,
looking up. Yeah, I mean, for most of our evolution, we were on all fours facing the ground and slightly ahead. We are way more attuned to looking kind of this direction and off to the sides than doing this. In fact, it even causes eye strain to look up like that. You can look any other direction and it's fine, but as soon as you look up, it's more eye strain than any other direction. It's an unnatural tendency to do that.
Pass out,
We've got
actually.
Darwin on this week's episode, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, that information is available.
That is very true.
I did a bit of reading on this in advance of the show, so...
Unnatural, but I think as creatives, like you're saying, and as business people, there is advantage that we can take. For example, right now, there is a lot of us that are against. For example, Gabe, you're very much against, but you also have the business vision to say, let's not ignore it, right? So
Yes.
those that are not going to ignore can have quite an advantage going forward. And if we go to a shoot to a client and they say, yeah, we can deliver something that we really can start on vertical for you, you definitely have a higher advantage than other companies that are saying, no, I'm not going to do
Yes,
that.
if a client asks me specifically for vertical video, I'm not going to stomp my feet and whine in front of them. I'm going to consider that a challenge and do everything I can to still deliver the best video, which is my job, independent of what shape the frame is. And that's part of the reason I think why we're doing this episode now, so we can generate some ideas and think of some creative solutions. And if this thing is unavoidable, how can we make the best of it?
If a client tomorrow asks you, I need to make a video for Instagram TV, that's what they're saying, for Instagram TV. Are you going to shoot portrait or are you going to shoot landscape? And the reason why I ask that is because there is a difference between shooting landscape and portrait and delivering landscape and portrait, because you could shoot landscape and deliver portrait,
Well,
and not vice versa.
as a quick addendum to that, oftentimes people are shooting a square, and the square video a lot of people prefer over strictly horizontal landscape with the bars on top and the bottom, or filling up the screen with portrait. A lot of people prefer the square, and I have to say that's awfully close to standard definition, which is what we finally got away from 10 or 15 years ago. So it's almost like we're moving backwards.
Going backwards.
We have more pixels, but we're moving backwards in time as far as our ability to frame. I mean, we spend so much time, oh my God, we can shoot HD, and now we can shoot 4K, now we can shoot 239:1 aspect ratio.
And then we've gone...
And now we've gone completely the opposite direction.
For me, square is the worst, actually. For me, square is worse than vertical.
Well, it's obviously, just geometrically speaking, it's a perfect compromise between landscape and portrait, but it's boring to me.
A 1-to-1 aspect ratio used to be a classic format that we dropped. It was, the old 1920s style kind of photo, or 1800s photo things. It used to kind of load in the camera, burn the flash in with the old triggers, and it would make a 1-to-1 square picture. It was massive, but I think it made like a tiny image. So that was an old format, and now we've gone back to it with the digital frame and digital style, and then people want square videos for promo things. I know I've cut many videos for the company I work for that are 1-to-1 with top and bottom cut into the widescreen videos with a top and bottom text thing on it, and it's in widescreen video, squared. It doesn't work well for the format. It doesn't do the content any justice at all, in my opinion. But that's just my own opinion. But I do want to kind of...
But films were never filmed, like films for cinema, they were never filmed in square. They were delivered for TV in square,
yeah, of course,
and scan.
But there's one thing which I wanted to kind of address with you guys, is because obviously we're not gonna be able to avoid this forever. It's going to be it's
already
it's exactly so. How do you think we can, in terms of kind of video production and post-production, how can we make something that will adapt and help us create the content that will work best? Because I had an idea, and I think it comes from Alex Goldner as well, that he thinks that video metadata can be expanded to a device platform as well. So you can shoot a vertical video, but say in Final Cut you have a plugin that will add metadata to the video file to say that when this video is on a portrait or vertical landscape, this is the frame I want it to capture.
Well, Apple already does that.
Oh, is it with clips or something? Or, no, it's with the photos thing, isn't it?
No,
it's the photos
with the photos.
app,
Yeah, exactly. The Memories
app does that.
Memories does face recognition, and you can do portrait and do landscape, and you see it reframes, does the pen scan based on the face.
Yeah.
So based on what it would be the main thing on the frame.
Yeah.
Right?
Is there a preference to move all vertical video into the trash? is there metadata that'll allow for that?
I don't think so. Maybe if you search for it, because you can do a lot of searching in the Photos app. So maybe if you search vertical video.
But But that's the thing. And if you're delivering vertical, like for example, if I would be recording right now to deliver something to Instagram TV, I would still record in landscape. First of all, it's only Instagram TV. It's only on the phones. People normally have limited data caps, and the compression from Instagram has always, from Instagram and from Facebook, basically the same company, has been always hideous. Absolutely hideous. So shooting here, for example, I'm shooting 4K, so I have 2160 pixels vertically, and if I lose half of the pixels on the horizontal, I basically have, 38, I have 1920. So I still have a very good resolution, even if I crop the sides, if I'm shooting in 4K, and I'm still able to finalize in a higher quality than Instagram TV is going to display on everyone's phone. So for example, today, if someone would ask me for an Instagram TV video, which I've been asked already, I told them, okay, but get everyone to shoot landscape, and we're going to do that later on in post.
The only time you can use fix it in post and actually, be legitimate with it, you know what I mean? It's kind of, we'll fix your horizontal video in post to make it vertical. That's sad. That's sad to say, actually, and that makes me upset.
For me, I think doing motion graphics in vertical video would be a fun challenge.
I was just thinking this.
It's the same challenge. It's just a different way of thinking about it. But it would just, because I've never done it, it would be nice to see how things are laid out vertically and how things could enter the frame. I think for dramatic content is where the biggest challenge is, simply because generally when we're creating drama, we're mirroring the human experience. And the human experience is landscape. That's the way we see it. It's not portrait. So you automatically have an uphill battle trying to do drama on a vertical video, which isn't to say it hasn't been done and people aren't working on that and that challenge won't be met. And it kind of made me think of how I see 360 video, and only in the sense of we don't yet know how one would tell a story in 360 video, because
but makes more sense than vertical.
Hear me out. For all of history, like the director's job is to direct the viewer's attention. I want you to see this right here. This in the frame is important right here. I'm going to show you. But if you're in 360 video and the viewer can look around wherever, how do you direct their attention? That's a unique challenge.
Big arrows from Las Vegas pointing straight to where you want them to look. Like over here.
With vertical video, that's kind of an interesting challenge. Not quite as prolific as it would be for 360, but because it's the opposite, literally, of how we normally view the world, you have to direct your attention. If you've got the subject in the lower half, and then you've got half the frame is just sky, what's the reasoning for that? Is it that way only because that's all you could do with your camera to fit the subject in the frames?
Think about it, just quickly, kind of throwing it in. Technically, 360 video at the minute, mainstream-wise, the ones that I currently kind of consume the most of, is actually on a vertical display. So it's vertical 360, which kind of even makes...
Well, I thought 360 could be great for a horror film, because if the viewer can look around,
absolutely,
you don't know what's around the corner. And vertical video the same. If your peripheral vision is cut off, you don't know what's coming up from the left to the right. It could be a
That's very good. Yeah, that's
experience.
very good.
I want to say about the titles that you were saying before. I mean, for vertical video, Japanese is going to benefit.
Sure.
Because they actually read on the vertical. They can read on the vertical. So I think for them it's not going to be a big deal, because you could have the person slightly off to the side and have a space there for
Or all
titles.
all the corporate clients who want like 75 bullet points. That would be useful.
You mentioned motion graphics just then. I kind of had a bit of a brief thought. I thought the App Store currently does that. With those videos you get that you can get previews for the apps on the App Store. They're in vertical video.
Yeah.
And a lot of the good motion graphics videos are on there. I saw one on the Apple Motion group the other day, and it showed a really very complex, very high quality motion graphics video in vertical, and it worked really well. Like, it used the space completely. There was no kind of unused space. It wasn't a vertical. It was a horizontal video made kind of compressed for vertical. It was unique, and that's kind of it's. I don't have a problem with vertical video. My problem is horizontal videos made and just squished down to be put into a vertical space, because I know you've shared this before, Philippe, where you've seen these horizontal videos with black bars on top and bottom with on a vertical thing, and
It was an inception of aspect ratios.
it really was. And you showed us. We all had a kind of a distaste for that, and that's what kind of I think has made us.
That's why I hate the square one, because normally on the square one people put the landscape one inside and put these huge bars on top of bottom with a text that never disappears and always stays there. I've seen that being explored a little bit better with film trailers, that the trailer would be on landscape inside of a square frame, but the trailer would bleed out to the square part, and that was quite interesting. Like explosions, they would bleed out, pretty much the same as Christopher Nolan does when he goes from 70 millimeters to IMAX. A lot of people actually don't realize the aspect ratios change in the middle of the movie, and it's so weird when you actually notice it. But it's interesting to use, and for me, the 360 video makes more sense on the way that this is how we experience reality. You are able to look around. So, for example, if you're sitting on your computer and then suddenly you hear a noise on the side, what do? You immediately look to the side and your attention is on that place. And I think making 360 video is also about set design. So you design the set in a way that there is no important and interesting stuff behind you. So why would the person look there? And stuff is happening in a certain place. I think 360 has so much potential, so much. And not only from the storytelling side, but we are not there yet on the viewing side, because there are a lot of things that have to improve, like a refresh rate on monitors, resolution on the monitors, the size, the weight. All of those things, they hinder the experience.
If you were to shoot an interview in portrait mode, where the subject is filling the frame, but their complete shoulders aren't cut off, where do you put the boom mic?
Sorry, it's on
you're
portrait.
framing an interview in portrait, right?
Yeah.
And
you have what, a medium shot?
yeah, so let's just say a
wide
medium shot. I mean, a close-up would be easy because they're filling the frame, but a medium shot, there's either going to be, you're going to either probably see down to their knees, or you're going to see a ton of space above their head. And if that's the case, where do you put the shotgun? Like currently, when I'm, like my shotgun right now is pointed at my chest. That's fine. Sometimes I do that, but oftentimes you want it overhead. Normally a boom operator would hold it there. Where are they going to be if you can see where they were previously able to hide?
I have the perfect answer.
Yeah.
I have the perfect answer. You buy a more expensive boom that you can put higher.
But even that is, yes, you could buy a longer shotgun, but even then, the closer you get to the subject, the better it's going to be. That's still the physics of sound still.
You can frame like seeing a little bit more than you can see here, all the way to my waist, for example. And then in that case, you don't have a lot of overhead, and you can put the shotgun from the top. I mean, that wouldn't be so much of a problem.
Well, then what about our classic kind of rule of thirds?
Rule of thirds is just a general thumbs up for us to not center someone there and have this super uneven stuff behind. I think rule of thirds, first of all,
horizontally it works that way, but vertically there's also...
Horizontally. I mean, yeah, and there's the whole thing about the golden proportion. Like, for example, if you get something from here and do a spiral like that, and the golden proportion is gonna... Oh, it could have done from here, right? There are a lot of articles and theory of photography that explain that a lot better than I'm doing right now. But rule of thirds is just a general rule of thumbs. But... And that's why I think vertical video can be quite interesting. Is like, okay, what is the good rule of thumbs right now? Because definitely is not filming from underneath your nose. Because a lot of people are like, oh, can you send a video? Because we're going to make a video for our corporate whatever, and we're going to put all videos together, and you ask people to film themselves. What do? They film on portrait, of course, but they film from underneath their face. So you see the ceiling and you see under their noses. Nothing will fix a person not having instruction on how to film themselves. Nothing will fix. Vertical video is not going to fix. Horizontal video is not going to fix. Square video is not going to fix. Even 360 video. Imagine that tomorrow, all the iPhones, they come with a 360 camera here on the top or something like that. And you can just place your phone somewhere and it's going to be recording you. That's not going to fix because people are going to put it on the table. They're going to stand up and you still are seeing that person from below. So I think it's interesting from so many different aspects. I mean, you obviously not going to use rule of thirds for a medium shot. You're probably going to have the person centered, which very soon is going to become boring. And, well, I'm actually so curious to know what's going to happen.
It's an interesting time, isn't it, for...
Because Periscope started with just portrait broadcasts.
Sure.
And at some point there was so much backlash on that because when you're doing something live, that's the important moment in which you want to see the stuff around because you never know where things are going to happen, right? Imagine watching the football match now during the World Cup and watching that in portrait. Who would want to do that? Tell me one person that would want to do that. I would bet that there is not a single sports fan that would want to watch that in portrait. If they want, they are not waiting. What are the consequences of that?
I would like to see kind of the photos way of automatically switching between, landscape and portrait, implemented into more of an app or an API or a plugin or used in Final Cut or in some other application to really extend that kind of thing where we as editors and content creators, we don't have to worry about shooting for portrait. We can shoot for horizontal video with some exceptions, some leeways. You need some wider framing for vertical video on some occasions. Well, but I'd like the ability to then go back into that and go, okay, if they ever have their phone like this is what I want them to see, a little box over there that you can animate, and it will, when you're watching it like that, it will do automatically. But when you have it like this, it won't. It will just show you the full video. No fluff and guff. But you can.
I have an idea.
Go on then.
This would be for Apple and Google mainly. You turn on the camera. Once you're in portrait, the camera actually shows it in landscape. When you put in landscape, it shows in landscape.
Yeah.
So basically, what they would do would be an auto crop and just show the landscape. You would lose quality and you would lose pixels, but it would say, yeah, what you're trying to do, you can't do. I mean, but then people are going to say, oh, you're removing people's choice and freedom. Let's do a class action suit against them and blah, blah,
You know what?
blah.
I bet there's an app on the App Store that does that, what you're saying. Like, if even if it's in vertical, it will just keep it horizontal. And if so, I'm going to promote that app on the next show. I'll have a look, and if in the next show it's still a topic of discussion, I'll bring it up. But
well, I hear you on the having a feature and then people being upset that you took it away and taking away our freedom, but like people are like eating Tide Pods. And to me vertical video is like the Tide Pods of aspect ratios. It's just true. Because we can do it doesn't mean we should.
No, okay, right. What benefits are there to...
No one said that they could eat it.
What benefits are there to vertical video, if any?
Getting paid if you're asked to make one.
That's true, but I mean, like, the effects industry usually use vertical stuff for some things as well. They do
Well, Felipe mentioned early on ads in a grocery store,
that's good. Yeah,
banners at a trade show.
Because I don't want to make it seem like we're bashing it, even though we kind of are. I do kind of just want to make it like a balanced argument, because if it's going to be a future thing, we can't really kind of be negative towards it, in my opinion. But again, I can see, reasons for and against. I don't like it personally, but I can see why people would go for it, and why
just because it's unavoidable or forthcoming doesn't mean we have to embrace it.
That's true.
I mean, I can look at where this country is headed, and it seems like we're going to be living in The Handmaid's Tale in 5 years. But that doesn't mean I shouldn't rage against it.
That's true.
And that's kind of how I feel about vertical video. Granted, probably nobody's going to die because of vertical video. Just a little piece of me will. So will I use it? Yeah, but I don't have to like it. It's not something I want to spend. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out how to improve my my landscape shooting, since I've studied my whole life looking at that frame.
Here's an idea. What do you think about from this point on the podcast right now? We release a separate version that's in portrait. So from this point forward, we're just in portrait right now. And now we can talk a little bit of the advantages of that.
Well, I can see myself on my monitor, and I can picture seeing only 1/3 of that screen, because that is what portrait is 1/3 of your landscape. It's gonna like cut me off like just by my headphones. It's just gonna be like my face filling half the screen and a little bit of my chest and some blue. It's gonna look ridiculous, but that's because none of us framed with portrait in mind, which again leads back to what we were saying, because it's a very concerted, conscious effort to do that. So to any future clients or existing clients out there, we can't just give you a normal HD video or 4K video like we always have been, and then if you also want a portrait from that, it's going to be a different animal. We're going to be limited by you can't shoot for the best of both worlds. You can shoot for a happy medium, but it's still a compromise. It's got to be one or the other, or maybe you get lucky. It depends on the subject. If you're filming a product on a table, it might translate well to both formats. But
to bring you back around then to the start, Instagram TV has been announced, released. It's out there now. How do you feel like this will affect? Because don't forget, like, it is vertical video, but this new platform, what do you think that's going to do for the future of content creation?
I don't give a about Instagram. They should call it Instagrat, because it's just like instant gratification. It's for people with no attention spans. It's these types of social media channels cater to everything that flies in the face of what we spend so much time doing on our end as content creators. We're changing our aspect ratio, where videos have to be a minute or less. People can't be bothered to rotate their phones. It's all about quickly digesting. It's just candy, and that's what bothers me.
Yeah. Well, there's one caveat that we have to keep in mind, is that Instagram is in 1/7 of the population. 1/7 of the population uses Instagram. They have over 1 billion active users. And that's not a small number. I removed Instagram from my phone because it's owned by Facebook, and I have absolutely zero trust on Facebook right now. I just don't have any trust on Facebook whatsoever. We have been seeing cases after cases after cases of the pure lack of privacy that you have on Facebook, and we literally just choose to put our information there. So that's a reason why I don't use Instagram on my phone anymore. But 1/7 of the population uses. So
Is Periscope still going?
it still is, but I think they're going to be acquired by someone.
How long did Vine last?
Vine had a very short lifespan. They literally did not capture things.
We use YouTube right now, not because it's the best, but because it's what most people use. So it makes business sense to try to reach the most number of people. So in that sense, it's like two sides of the coin. On the one hand, same thing with vertical video. If that's how people are consuming it, and if nobody's going to watch it, if we're not putting content out in vertical, that's where we're foolish to ignore that. But on the other side, it's like these platforms come and go. Just because Google makes a lot of money and they sort of have a monopoly of sorts doesn't mean it's going to be there in 5 or 10 years, or that it's going to be the best thing.
That's true. The only one that we can see more with a little bit more sensitivity that's going to be there is YouTube, really, because they have been, they've been doing some mistakes lately, or some things that people don't really like, but they have monetization, so people are actually able to create content, put it up there, and make money out of it. Instagram doesn't have that yet. They say that eventually people are going to get paid, but no one knows when and how that is going to work. But imagine, very soon you're going to open Instagram and you're going to start seeing ads the same way that you see on YouTube.
Yes.
I literally hate that.
And another thing I've read recently about YouTube is that, and this hasn't happened yet, and it may not happen, but there are talks about them not allowing users to add custom thumbnails. So and I create a custom thumbnail for this show. All my clients who go online do that. And you do that to perpetuate your brand or to create an image that captures the essence of what that video is about. So again, it's another slap in the face of content creators. And it's more about the candy and the quick convenience and getting marketing dollars up there and selling data. And it has nothing to do with creating it's like the opposite of Vimeo. It's instead of creating a stage where you can showcase this thing that you produced, it's just more like a product on a shelf now.
Yeah, the thumbnail thing with YouTube is at the moment like an experiment, and the idea is that they will put custom thumbnails themselves for those that do not use custom thumbnails. But of course, they didn't do it properly, and people were complaining, and even MKBHD did a video about it.
What's this about custom thumbnails?
Vimeo is like a hybrid between the old distribution systems together with the online world. You don't monetize through advertisement, you monetize by selling your stuff, which I think it's pretty good. The problem I see with Vimeo today is that they haven't redesigned or they haven't updated their website. I want to say in about 10 years, but I could be wrong. But it feels like
It's been a while
time.
since Vimeo ever done anything, to be honest.
Like look at the YouTube player. You increase the size of your Safari window or whatever, and the player gets huge. It is responsive, and that's very nice. Vimeo is a little bit behind on that, and I wish Vimeo would just improve it.
But I just don't see how and why there's a pricing format out there for Vimeo when you've got, I don't know, like it's from my own kind of business standpoint, like, why would I upload to Vimeo and get a limitation of what I can upload when I can upload to YouTube? It's, one of those things where...
Well, on the one hand, it's because Google makes its money doing other things, whereas
true.
Vimeo only makes its money from people who pay for their services. But to bring this kind of...
And on Vimeo, you can get the original back as well. On YouTube, you
Well,
can't.
and to bring this back to vertical video, you're not going to see vertical video on Vimeo or YouTube without pillar boxing on the side.
That's
so
true. It's like a penalization for,
Yes.
For vertical video.
Yeah, but YouTube does support vertical video on the phone. So if you open a portrait video and put it on full screen, it stays full screen on your phone.
I like to have some cleaner way of displaying vertical video. Like, I know some people do they kind of do like a blurred version of it behind, and they kind of expand it, the video if it's a vertical thing, so it's not black around.
Yeah, I do that as well.
Maybe have something like that on YouTube, with like CSS or something, to kind of...
Sure,
it might have more heart and resources, but...
There are all kinds of things that we can do to fill the frame that could have been better filled had you just shot at landscape.
Yeah.
But it's just a workaround, really. You're compensating for the lack of image and just adding a bunch of in there because, I can only fill a third of the frame with what is actually going on.
Yeah.
Somebody did mention I think the previous episode, they left a comment.
It was like 2 episodes ago, yeah.
Well, yeah, they were idiots. They said they stopped watching after episode 2 because they didn't like what we said about vertical video. Well, sorry, but here we are talking about vertical video, and they did mention one good point that we didn't mention then, which was that when shooting a green screen.
But it's not about delivering vertical. It's not about delivering portrait. Yeah.
When you shoot somebody against a green screen, what you're doing is you're removing the green so you can put that person in front of whatever different background or environment. And so the more information you can capture, the better you're going to be able to pull them out of that green environment. So if you're able to fill an entire person in the frame, you're better off than if they're small in the frame. And if I was to film Felipe standing up here, what's the best way for him to film the frame? That would be portrait. So filling them up that way, that is a great, and I'm glad that person mentioned that. If they were still on the channel, we could have had a conversation. But we're talking about it now, and I am grateful that they mentioned that because that is a good point.
Big cap on that, I would like to invite people to join us on July 11th, next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central. It's going to be also, 5 p.m. UK, 6 p.m. Central European Time, to join us on a live broadcast. We're going to do this episode live so we can talk to you guys in the audience, and you can talk back to us and we can have a nice conversation. So if the person that talk to us about vertical video and blah, 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 well, we can have that conversation live on a video. So I think that's going to be very cool. I'm actually looking forward to the broadcast.
That'll be exciting. Episode 10 is our first live episode.
It is. That's a nice milestone for us all. 10 episodes, crikey. It's been a bit of an interesting path, interesting journey together.
Well, that means what, 10 weeks that we have been doing
crazy.
this, like a little over 2 months.
We're working. We have got our own businesses and things like that. So it's kind of like, we do this out of love and out of and we enjoy doing we enjoy doing some of us enjoy doing the show.
I've been creating content for my clients for so many years now, where now that we're able to do content that's just ours, for me is one of the highlights of my week. I love being able to just do something that's ours, and we're not selling a product or a service for some other company. I'm good at that. I'm grateful that I can do that, but I love cutting the show. And whether we have 40 subscribers or 40,000 subscribers, which will never happen, we're gonna keep doing it. So
hey, you never know.
Sam, you wanna close this one? You opened it for us.
Yeah, sure thing. Rightio. Okay, cool. Thank you guys very much for watching. Join us for the live episode on the 11th of July. Philippe mentioned all the times, and if you need to find out what your time is, you can use a time converter, I believe, to kind of, we'll put all the information in the description for when that's going to happen. So yes, thank you guys very much for watching. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe to us, and subscribe to us on iTunes as well. We're on iTunes also. And we'll see you guys on the live episode. It's going to be quite fun. So from me, I'll see you guys then.